Good evening and welcome to March 26, 2025 meeting of the Town of Chesapeake Beach Planning and Zoning Commission. I would like to call this meeting to order and roll call, please. Let's start at this end.
Jan Rutke.
Rachel Weaver.
Larry Brown.
I'm Cindy Greengold.
Kelly Hahn.
And please let the record show that Commissioner Smith is absent tonight. Okay, thank you. Let's ask Commissioner Brown to help us with the Pledge of Allegiance tonight.
To the flag of the United States of America, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Move away so that the audience can see the flag. Okay, now we would like to go to number 3, which is the approval of the March 26 agenda.
Okay.
Yes, go ahead. Yes, go ahead.
Motion to amend the agenda?
Do I have a second for the
I'll second
motion
it.
to?
See what
Okay,
she has in mind.
all in favor for,
That's the amendment.
Oh, yeah.
okay,
Yeah.
fair point. What is it that we're gonna
Oh,
hear?
you want to get out of here?
What
today?
is it that I want to leave here? It's 6 o'clock. Okay, so what is it that you would like to amend?
I would like to introduce discussion about changing town ordinances with regards to backyard chickens.
Would you say that again?
Backyard chickens. You know what? I second.
Okay, so we would like to add on the agenda, we will go ahead and put that in as new business, but I will introduce right before number 7, we're going to add new business. And I'm going to add in here backyard chickens. And we will bring that up. I will probably stop with our signage at about 7:30 and then proceed, and we'll talk a little bit about it, maybe bring it back for further discussions, what we'll do. So all in favor of bringing this on before I add it entirely? Do I have a motion? We have a motion, we have a second. All in favor of adding that to the agenda, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, it's added. Okay, thank you. Let's go to number 4, approval of the minutes of the February 22nd, 2025 Planning Commission meeting.
Move to approve the minutes.
I'll second.
Any corrections, changes? No. All in favor of
Aye.
moving? Okay. Thank you. All in favor? And I don't see anybody in the public for public comment. So let's go ahead and go to old business signage. Now, what we have been doing is trying to get through a lot of text. We've been seeing some changes. Our planner, Sarah Franklin, has been trying to make notes and trying to make some changes as we're talking. We're going to keep moving forward and then come back and then insert all the changes so we can do that all in one fell swoop. So if you go to page 3, there are some things that we would like to take a look at tonight and get through and then move on to the next item. So number 3, page 3, number 8, which is highlighted in pink, I guess you would red or whatever. We had a question about flags, and it says large flags in addition to national, state, or town flags. Let me just see here. 1 large flag per lot or permitted commercial operation provided that. Okay, so Ms. Franklin, would you like to just make a little tiny bit of introduction as to what we're trying to change here?
Yes, so this is a sign that doesn't need a permit. And last time the question was, what is the size of the flag at Veterans Park? So because we don't want to be out of compliance with our own ordinance, if we're going to are we going to put a sign limit? So the flag at Veterans Park is 15 feet by 25 feet. And that compares to the standard flag of 3 by 5 feet. You don't have to put a size limitation, but if you want to, that was the discussion last time, was should you put a size limitation? on the
Okay, so
flags?
the question is, do we want to put a size limitation? And
Mhm.
we now know that the flag across the street is 15 by 20, 25, 15 by 25.
It's, yes, 15 by 25.
But do we want to identify, I mean, do we want to allow any size flag for any size building, or what is everybody's desire on this one? Anybody have any thoughts about it? Concerns?
My question is, this is in addition to national, state, or town flags. So,
It's true.
and that's already authorized.
That's true.
We're talking about
That's true.
some commercial or some other,
Oh, that's true. It's not even,
state,
it's not a national flag. It's a, yeah,
Political-
commercial. That's true. This could be a concern if you had, instead of that flag, you had a flag that said, you know, Papa John's Pizza or something. I mean, I don't know.
I don't think you want it to be 15 by 25.
Well, that's
So
what I'm.
that's why I didn't actually make the change.
Okay. So what does everybody want to do about number 8?
I have a question.
Yes, yes, please.
What did it mean when it said or permitted commercial operation? Because businesses, I'm not sure about the permit process, but I was a little fuzzy on just exactly what that meant.
It means businesses or anything operating commercially. So if you had a
Developer?
if you had a home occupation, then that is there's sort of a commercial operation in there. Think a food truck would need to be permitted, so they could have a flag on their truck.
If they have a
Developers,
permit.
if they had a, well, no, these are
Oh, these are-
exemptions. If they're a permitted commercial operation, you don't really have food truck regulations in the zoning ordinance. So, yeah, it's really just, it's saying like, if you are a business, whether that business, wherever that business is, it's not saying in a commercial district, wherever your business is, you can also fly this flag.
you don't have to have a lot.
No, like,
Well, so over where the shopping center is with Roland's and CVS, each of those could have a flag in front of, sort of projecting. Those are each a commercial operation.
So each business at the shopping plaza could have a lot.
Correct.
So this is in addition to a sign on their wall. They also have or would that be included in their square footage?
If the flag is attached to the wall, then it would be included in their square footage. If it
So-
is, if it's on a pole sort of sticking out, then that's not really counting towards their square footage because it's not always covering that same size unless it's windy and it's flown out, right?
So in other words, you could add a sign that says your name on it as an extra signage
You
would be
could,
exempt.
yeah, if you,
And it could be any size
unless you regulate it, correct?
unless we change it.
Yes.
So that's what we have to figure out is what do we want to do and do we want to allow a flag? Now, are you talking about a flag that is rectangular or what is a flag?
So a standard flag is 3 by 5, like your standard household size.
Well, I mean, but it's rectangular. It's not one of those windmill, what do you call those?
Feathers?
Feathers, thank
The-
you.
The
Feather.
feather is different and it is.
Developers usually have the feathers in front of the, like,
Mhm.
when they're building to bring the attention out.
But they're not a flag.
And those are considered
Discuss
temporary, I
that
thought too.
elsewhere.
Yeah, hang on, they might be.
Feather
in
flags
the-
aren't flags.
Well, they're
And it's a
not-
terrible
the feather
misnomer.
sign. Afraid you gotta take it down.
Under our definitions,
That's
a flag is any fabric banner or bunting containing distinctive colorless problem used as a symbol of a government, political subdivision, or other entity. So a feather flag would,
Be a flag.
the feather flag sign is defined separately, but we could say excluding feather flag signs to prevent those to be more specific in this area.
Why would we want to?
I mean, I think my concern is
Well, you might not want to allow it at all. That's
That's
it's
what
just
I'm
in
concerned is
here.
that we could
You
see a
guys-
lot of abuse with the signage that we have totaled up and we've, in our permitting process, we've totaled up the amount of signage on their walls, wherever they're putting it. And then, oh, by the way, they're going to stick a flag in as an additional signage that's not included in their permitted signage. So, and that could be, at this point in time, any size at all. So we could see a sign covering the entire edifice of the building, basically, because could be any, at this point, it could be any size. So we have got to either eliminate this flag idea entirely or downsize it to the point where it's only a 3x5 and that is it. But I'm not sure that should be exempt. That should be included in, if it's permanent,
Mhm.
included in the total signage.
Yeah, I definitely think it's something you guys have discussed before, and that's why it's in here.
Yeah.
But it can have guardrails put on it. It could be eliminated, could be moved. That's really
Okay. All right, let's start with Jan, what do you think down there? What do you think?
I think we definitely should limit the size.
Okay.
Because there are some outrageous sized flags. And so
Okay, and do you think, okay, let me just ask one more question though, before you end that. But you think that they should be allowed as an exempt signage?
no, I really don't think so.
Okay, so that's one more, an additional thought that I'm concerned about. Rachel, what are your thoughts here?
I think they should be limited in size and should go towards total square footage.
probably limited in size.
What about towards the square footage? I noticed you didn't. I was just making sure that you.
Friendly
So
village.
limited in size and so this would be a permanent, let's just say that flag is a permanent fixture, not just a temporary feather thing. There's temporary versus, permanent as well. Okay, and Mary Sue, what do you think?
So I'm a little bit on the fence. I definitely think if it's allowed, that we limit the size. And I think part of it, my kind of hesitation is that it might look good, or if it depends on like the scale of the whole, if let's say it's Rollins. And it depends on, because I know aesthetics are different, it's subjective. But like if it adds color and its movement, it might be wonderful. But it could also end up looking junky. But one man's treasure, another person's junk. And so I'm not 100% sure about whether or not I definitely, if it's allowed, I think definitely we would need to limit the size. And I'm still not a little bit.
Could we though, could they get a permit for an exemption if they like the average person, we keep it at a certain size, but like when larger commercial places would want it, is there the option like our flag is larger because it's a permitted flag?
If you were gonna keep it permanent, and it was, in my opinion, let me first, okay, so what else did you want to say, Marie? Is there anything else?
I think also like whether maybe limiting the size, but maybe it's also in proportion to the size of the edifice. If it's not part of this, incorporated into the signage size.
And Kelly, what are your thoughts?
I agree with Larry. Limit on size, but I don't know that I would add it to the overall structure of the total signage size.
Up a little, I'm sorry.
Oh, is your microphone on?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So I said I agree with Larry on keeping it limited on size, but not counting it overall as part of the signage.
Okay. So we have, it doesn't sound like anybody wants to eliminate the flag entirely. It doesn't sound like we have that. Except for maybe one. I mean, I keep
Excuse me
looking.
one moment. Can I
Yes.
ask, do we have anybody that has a flag, a business flag in Chesapeake Beach?
Because it would be helpful to see. I agree.
Like,
I
just,
I don't know the answer to that. I wouldn't want to answer that without having like gone specifically looking, because there's something you can easily overlook. And I can't think of.
We do have, the barber has a feather
Mhm.
flag.
Mhm.
And it sometimes gets a little ratted tat. I mean, it's not always the
It can
brightest.
look
and
rough.
The
Yeah.
problem
with
is that
wind.
some flags don't do well with this wind after, a very short period of time. They look tattered and worn. They don't hold up very well. And so if you have a flag as a permanent fixture and you're not changing it out or whatever, it starts looking pretty bad, I think, in this environment with this wind that we have all constantly. Yes, it provides movement, but when you look at it and it goes, oh, it's faded and it's just, the edges are worn. I'm not sure. Now, if it was a temporary sign, I have no problem with it being exempt, but I mean, that's the other question. Could we make them temporary flags? We could do a temporary 3x5. Everybody's allowed to have a temporary 3x5. But then how do you
Well-
measure a feather flag?
They aren't going to have a 30-foot.
Well, I'm not thinking, I'm thinking of just like a regular standard 3x5 you put in the wall and you let it, and then we would have to make sure we knew where that was being placed. It can't be placed too far, too low where it would hit somebody if you're walking along the sidewalk. So placement is an issue too. That is an interesting, issue. So could we possibly separate out, let me see, how would I think about this? Can I separate out the fact that you all want them or don't want them? Can we at least start with that? Do we want to have flags as an exempt sign that does not require a permit, because this is under the exemption section? Do we want to have it exempt from any permit? And do we want to allow flags at all? I want to just get that one question. Are we okay with having an exempt flag? And, okay, let's just go we'll limit the size. We'll have an exempt flag with a size like 3x5. What do you think about an exempt flag 3x5?
An exempt flag.
In other words, exempt from a permit. So they can just have it out there and it's not going to go into their square footage of signage. Or do you think it should go into the square footage?
Yes, I do.
Okay, so it should be part of the square footage. Okay, so we've got be part of the square footage, because this is where it gets complicated. I'm thinking we're gonna have to break this down of the square footage. And
can you help me understand why you think it should be part of the signage square footage?
Well, because to me, it's more eye clutter.
It's more what?
eye clutter, which is what signage, that's the whole issue of why you do, codes with signage, you want to reduce the sign clutter. So we have a sign clutter concern.
But we're
I'm with
talking,
you.
we're talking about signs on a business property.
Yes,
Okay,
yes.
yeah.
So if it says Papa John on the wall, I shouldn't use Papa John. Let's just say Cindy's Pizza. Let's use Cindy's Pizza on the wall. And then I can also have a flag that sticks out and it says Cindy's Pizza along here as well. And that would be exempt from how much you could see Cindy's Pizza. And gosh, no, we don't want to see Cindy's Pizza around anywhere. But I'm just saying, in other towns I've worked in, we have used it as part of the square footage. I mean, that is what they do because of that. It's just more
It's
advertisement.
stuff, It's
and
distraction.
it's more distraction, more clutter. That's what, or some towns don't allow them at all, but, okay, so if we included them as part of the square footage, they would have to be permitted.
And how much would the permit cost?
They might not have to be permitted. Hang on.
Well,
Because I'm pretty sure we have, yeah. So we already have this function in 3 where any on-premises sign provided that the total area of such signs. No, I think we could get it into exemptions if you wanted to, because we would put it in, you would give it this limit, this 3 by 5, it sounds like you all are agreeing on. And then you would say, you would tie back into that 10% or total limitation on size and say, provided that this combined with other signs doesn't exceed. And then if they needed permitted signs, of course, they're not going to get them if they're over that. And they're in violation of the code if they're over it with unpermitted signs.
okay, so what you're saying is you can keep it exempt,
Mhm.
but it would be part of the total square footage of signage.
Yes. It'll just have to be an addition underneath that stating, similar to this one right here that's highlighted on the screen, which you can't see because I highlighted.
Okay. Okay. So, if you limit it, and then we could also limit it to 3 by 5.
Yes.
So we could limit it to 3 by 5. It would be part of the total square footage. And do we have to discuss where it would be placed? Does it have to be out of, does it have to be something that would not go into the public right of way? Do we have to include that? Do we have to be specific on that?
I mean, other places are not, but that doesn't mean that we don't need to be. Like, we can certainly say, pretty sure there's actually a regulation in the general sign regulations that talks about projection. So I can
Yeah, there
pull
is
that.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I can
Yeah,
pull
it-
that up and put that under here as well.
Well, it certainly can't be in a space where people are walking by, for example. I mean,
Right.
that's
Exactly. Mhm.
very basic, but if we don't tell them, they're going to do whatever they feel like
Let
doing.
me see.
Do we need to also indicate how high up? It can't be any higher than this, or, or do we have to, how specific do we have to get on that?
I think, so I'm back into general, or general sign regulations, and maybe we can just tie it back into this, that it can't exceed the maximum height equal to the eave line of the building.
Okay.
I don't know what.
They may not be higher, they may not project above the roof line.
I would say eave line, right?
The what line?
The bottom of the roof, right?
Okay.
Or do you want it to,
Okay, good. So they may not project above the bottom of the roof line.
Mhm.
Okay, let's see if this is something that, I've got, it can be exempt, which I'm still not sure how it can be exempt and still be part, but anyway, we'll just allow it to be exempt.
Agree.
We're gonna limit it in size to 3 by 5, but it has to be part of the total square footage of the, part of the total square footage of signage that's allowed on the bill, on the particular, business. It has to be located out of the public right of way, and it may not project above the bottom of the roof line. Okay, let me just ask everybody what you think about those ideas. And is there anything you want to take out, put in?
No, but they still could put a sign up that is brushing the heads of people walking by.
Well, it has to be located out of the public right of way. So it has to be elevated. So that would mean that you could not put it low enough that somebody would bump on it, right? If it's out of the public right of way, or no? Does that not mean that?
That does, and the public right of, it means it's not going to be going over a sidewalk.
Okay.
Okay,
Or,
well.
Yeah, it
okay.
can't be going over a sidewalk. So if that means you have a very limited area to put it in.
You're not kidding.
You'd have to put it almost going perpendicular to your building, really.
depending on, well, there's private walkways and there's public walkways, right?
Mhm, yeah,
So
that's true too.
the setbacks for the most part would keep it out of the,
That's true. That's
Public
true.
right
So
of
you
way.
would have some private lawn area you could put it over, whatever. So there would be that. Okay, let's go down to Kelly. Kelly, what do you think? We're talking limit in size 3 by 5. Part of total square part is going to be part of the total square footage of the signage. Located, it can't be located. It has to be located out of the public right of way. May not project above the bottom of the roof line. How does that sound to you?
Kelly.
We're going to start at Kelly and just work our way around.
I mean, I'm willing to accept it. I'm willing to accept it. The only thing I'm thinking is most of our businesses are small, right? They don't have a lot of money and they're doing what they can to bring in business. And a flag might bring in business more than a sign because the flag waves and it catches the attention. So that's part of my reasoning of thinking it shouldn't be included. But if the consensus is it should be included as part of the overall, then I'm willing to agree to that.
Okay, Mary Sue, what do you think?
Well, I think Kelly brings up a really good point about, small businesses and, just kind of struggling. I think about like restaurants, let's say, struggling to keep afloat and it might catch someone's eye. And then I'm wondering, and this is, I kind of apologize for throwing this in, but I'm wondering if somebody wants to put up a flag, instead of it being like, maybe it's a hybrid. So instead of it being part of the whole, part of the sign, thank you, my monitor over here, could maybe they get like a little credit for a little credit towards that signage, meaning they might be able to, it's included, but they get like a little bit more dimensional. In other words, maybe only 75% of the flag goes towards, is
Total
included.
square footage.
Yeah, just something so that I just don't want people to feel that they're being overregulated to death. And at the same time, I know how important it is not to have that visual clutter, cacophony kind of confusion. I just want people, so I think if you give a little bit, that might make people feel a little bit better. That's all. And that's just, but I think it's important. I think it's important. Again, I'm all about due process and about just, and also compromise. You might not have known, but I'm a middle child. I'm just saying.
That explains it.
There we go.
Okay, so you're saying increase the amount of square footage that they're allowed if they want to have a flag.
Not like a whole lot, but maybe they, that they get like a little extra for the flag, but it's not totally just you have the flag and you have the sign. It just means that their sign might have to be a little bit smaller, let's say, to accommodate the flag, but it's not like, I'm just saying maybe they get a little bit of a break on if they have a flag, that maybe 75% of the flag size is part of the total. That's all. That's just, I don't know.
I mean, the other way to do this is to allow them to have a temporary sign that is exempt, that is 3x5. So if you wanted to just put a sign up for St. Patrick's Day, or if you want to just put up a sign for 30 days.
You mean a flag or?
I mean, I'm sorry,
Okay.
flag. I'm sorry, flag. I'm
Okay.
a flag. So I mean, you could do it that way also. You just have a temporary flag, and then we don't have to count it into the total square footage. We could go that route as well. So that might be an alternative, because it kind of bothers me that it's exempt, but yet it's in the total square. It doesn't make any sense to have it exempt and then have it in the total square footage.
Awkward, for sure.
It is
To me,
awkward.
it doesn't seem
Yep.
logical. So I thought the original intent was that the exempt sign would mean a temporary flag. They would put it for a special occasion, open house, whatever. 15 days, whatever we would decide to do, and make that what we do here.
Mhm.
That was my thought, but I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's, do you want someone to have to pay for a permit to put up a flag? That's,
Well, and that's why I would have
Yeah.
it temporary, and I wouldn't do that. I would have it exempt.
Right.
If you only had it up for the 2-week period, a week before St. Patrick's Day, a week after, that kind of a thing, 3x5 size.
Sorry.
Let's go.
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't want to pass over you. We'll just keep going down the road. What are your thoughts, sir?
To limit the height. Bay clippers. And so the flag is going to be at eye level.
So you don't think it's right to have it at high
Mhm.
level? Or did you want it to go?
30 feet.
You want it to go to
It
the
can be
3
up as high
stories?
as 30 feet.
So you want a 3-story flag over a 1-story building?
But you want them all the time, or you've seen it all the time?
I've seen it all the time.
Okay.
Okay. So you're saying allow them to do whatever they want to with flags, is what you're saying?
Up to 30 feet.
Okay, up to 30. Well, that's what okay, up to 30. Anything else you want to add to this?
What?
Anything else you want to add to this discussion?
Why not just limit it to national, state, and town flags?
So don't allow any other flags? No commercial flags?
Right.
Okay.
Well, what if the national, state, and town flags, those don't count towards your square footage, but
Oh,
your
right.
business
Oh, absolutely.
signs, you still get to have your business signs, but those go towards square footage. But if you have your 10% of business signs and you still want to put up the national flag, then you get the exemption.
No, that's right. I mean, I think, isn't that the way it is right now? That's already the way it is right now. So that is not the issue. The issue really is, do we want to then, so we do want to add it to the square footage, is what you're saying, Rachel?
Yeah,
You want it to add to the square foot, you want it to be part of the square footage of all the signage they have on their site.
yeah, if it's a commercial
If
flag,
it's a
I feel like
commercial.
you have to make decisions and be like, which one am I gonna do? And that
Which
doesn't
one's-
feel like, that doesn't feel overly restrictive to me, because I still think you have opportunity for a fair amount of signage.
Let me, before I go down this way, let me keep going down this way. What do you think about the idea of having an exempt commercial sign if it's only temporary, a week before, or, like maybe a 14-day, 15-day exempt
I mean, a
sign?
flag.
I mean, I'm sorry, it's saying,
Sorry.
to me, it is a sign, but yes, okay, I'm sorry, a flag is what I mean to say.
I'm not particularly interested in that exemption, because I also just think the more complicated things are, then like, are we going around every 15 days? And who has, I just like things to be a little more simple and to be like,
Which means the flagpole would be temporary.
if you decide that you want your flag to be a part of your 10% of
Right, no, but if, in the temporary
Yeah.
idea, you're gonna have a temporary
temporary
flagpole.
pole, and that seems like, so either you choose that you're going to have a flag or you don't.
I
Towards
was referring to one of those wall,
Yeah.
those things that come out of the wall that you just stick out. A lot of people, it's St. Patrick's Day, whatever. Okay, and Jan, what are your thoughts?
On which piece of this?
Well, so you,
No, I mean,
let's go. We've talked about a lot of things. So do you agree that they should not be exempt, that they should be part of the total amount of square footage? Okay, so it's part of the signage square footage and not temporary. It should be, it should not, we should not have a temporary flag. Just
in
because,
addition
in
to,
addition to.
yes, I agree. We should
Agreed.
not.
We should not. Okay, all right. So we seem to be split a little bit on the temporary sign, on the temporary flag thing. I'm hearing that you guys want a temporary flag.
Do you want to go first?
So I just looked up images of business advertising flags outside buildings. And it says that these flags are designed to be highly visible and are often used outside buildings for advertising purposes. They come in various shapes, such as feather, which are evidently exempt, teardrop, rectangular, and angled flags, and act as offering different advantages in terms of visibility. So I'm thinking a flag like just a 3x5, but they're talking about all these other ones. So
It would be hard to start restricting, you have a concern.
Oh, two things, because we're talking about commercial, but this has residential implications. So I just want to make sure that that doesn't get lost. If people put a flag on their house, this is allowing that or not allowing that. And then I think that's correct, what Commissioner Hahn said. And so we can just work on the definition of flag in our set of definitions to be that 3x5 flag and everything else to be a temporary sign.
why
just-
would that have implications on residential flags?
So large flags, in addition to national state flags, one large flag per lot or permitted commercial operation. So it's per lot, which means your house lot or a permitted. So I just wanted to
Okay.
make sure that that didn't get lost in the discussion.
Yes,
Thank you.
yes, I'm
So-
sorry.
If somebody has, if I understand this, is that they could have their sign and the state, the national, the local flags, they could have 3 of those as well. If it's on the building, the kind that come out at the angle, do we want to in any way say that they all have to be kind of at the same height? Do we care about uniformity if there's 3 flags? I guess if they're all the same size, I don't know. It's
I
just
just
something-
feel like that gets into the overly, like, when we write it too hard, then it's harder to actually monitor.
And,
like-
and I don't, I don't
Yeah.
disagree with you either.
Mhm.
Just something I was thinking about.
Like, I
multiple
wish
flags.
everybody had good taste, but it's hard to regulate that.
How would you rewrite, hearing all this discussion, how would you rewrite 8 to encompass some of our discussion up here? It looks as though what we're talking about is if it's commercial, that the flag has to be part of the sign square footage, signage square footage. So, but it sounds also like if it's a residential situation, people don't really care. I mean, we really don't.
The
Yeah.
square footage becomes irrelevant
Yeah,
because
it's square foot. Yeah, exactly. So we need to take 8 and we need to break it out into different.
if you've been watching what I've been doing on the side, I've been writing what all of you've been saying or paraphrasing what you have all been saying and what we have come to at the end. So I think I can rewrite it, but I don't think I can rewrite it right now.
No,
Because,
I
yeah.
know. So if you wouldn't mind reading what kind of the things you've set up there, it's kind
Yeah,
of
so I
tough.
think
for me to
towards-
see.
What the summary is that you want to, for commercial, tie it to the total square footage like we have done in other places. Make sure that it's located out of the public right of way. Add rules about projection that are in the general sign regulation section. And make sure that an attached flag is not projecting above the bottom of the roof line. The detached flag still can be 30
Okay.
feet. That's in here.
Now, if it's a house,
Mhm.
do I care if it's below the roof line? I don't. If it's the American flag,
Okay.
I say it can go as, 30 feet.
Well, but the American flag is not.
That's
That,
that's not included.
Exempt anyway.
That's exempt.
it's sort
from
of,
this.
yes.
That
Oh,
that
it's
you can go up to 30 feet. Okay, so it sounds as though what you have is pretty much what we've been discussing. I think generally, I know that there are some of you that don't mind if it's not part of the square footage, but I think we would have to delineate between the exempt temporary sign
Mhm.
and the permanent flag that would
Mhm.
be in the ground the entire time, or be, part of the fixture the entire time. Am I not wrong in suggesting that the exempt should be temporary?
What, and then we would have to
Oh,
define
that's-
temporary.
And then do we want that? And maybe we don't want that. I don't know. Maybe we should just exclude the temporary flag altogether.
I mean, because then you have enforcement, and how often are they going to send enforcement out?
And the cost of the town.
The reality for that piece of the enforcement with regard to the total area measurements, that's really only going to come into play when it is very obvious that someone is far beyond their they're allowed because
30% coverage probably before anybody gets.
right, because code enforcement isn't going to be adding those flags in when it just doesn't look like it's a problem to start with. That's a lot of sort of extra work to do. But if someone has lots of signs everywhere and the violation needs to be written, then that's when that would come into play. So it's this question of, are you putting it in there and adding confusion to the ordinance
Right.
in a way that's going to be rarely used?
Okay. So 8A and B, 8A and B, you're going to have to rewrite to try and accommodate what you've heard here tonight. And I hope that when we bring it back,
Mhm.
that we can come to some agreement on how that will look when it's written out. I don't even think we should make a motion because it sounds like we've got a lot to
I have
write
all
up.
the notes from what you said and
Yeah.
that summary. So with all of that, I think I can write something for you guys.
Does anybody else have anything they want to add to the discussion on this? I mean, I know that it's not a perfect situation, but I think we have to compromise on how this is going to look at the end of the day. Rachel, what do you think? You okay? Everybody okay?
Mhm.
Okay, let's quickly, before we go up, leave page 3, let's go up to number 4, where it says 1 neon open sign per business provided that. We had a comment from one of our town council members that that word neon should be changed to illuminated. And if it's okay with everybody, we're gonna pencil that in as a change. Does anybody have any issues with that? Okay.
No.
Do you know what we're talking about? Number 4. Got it.
No.
Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and make that note. Very good. Okay, now we got that covered. The next thing we're going to do is go to page 9. Isn't it page 9 we want to go to where it's page 9 under, is that where we're going to go to next? Page 9, Sarah? Or
I've
was
been
it-
taking notes, so my pages have gone off for me.
Okay,
What
sorry.
is this section?
I think it was page 9 that we've listed here.
Electronic messaging.
Yeah,
center?
yeah.
Electronic
Oh, actually,
messaging.
page 4, did we do 4?
Madam Chair,
Yes.
on real estate signs. Now, I see that signs are to be removed within 5 days after either settlement of the lease or whatever.
Yes.
But I've known agents to leave multiple directional signs, open house signs until the cows come home. And, I mean, you can forget a sign, but I just think the open house signs need to come down by 3 days after the open house or something. And once again, it's an enforcement issue, but the counties do that regularly, vigorously.
Did we have, let me see here, where was that? Which number are we on for real estate? Because I know it's the same set.
Number
page.
10 was real estate signs.
Number 10 in
If I
D,
may,
page 4.
Chair Greenville.
Sarah, while they're looking, and I apologize, I didn't bring it to your attention earlier, but the first paragraph under 10, there's the word "the" that should come out.
I caught that.
Pardon me?
I caught that.
Oh, okay. Great.
So going back to real estate signs, since it's blue and we have, we're looking at that. What is it? I know we talked about real estate signs prior and we talked about the fact that they kept them up. Did we make any changes here that were,
Yeah.
10B.
yeah, we made changes and,
10B says all signs shall be removed within 5 days.
But that's if a house is for
So-
sale and not sold. Those,
We just
they
need
could
to
have,
add something about,
yeah, and it's another enforcement issue, just like the 5 days for the settlement and
Yeah.
lease.
so what was it? I know you had terminology or wording that you wanted to put in here instead of settlement. Was it just when
Oh.
it was,
We did change that, but we also addressed this question. It's just on page 16.
okay.
And
I
I'm
read
not
that.
sure that it will stand up legally, so we have to run it by the lawyer, but I did put that in there. With regard to the question about splitting that up, that's B. See how B is split into two sections now?
Oh, yeah.
It-
Mhm.
And
Just,
then if I go to violations, this is the new language here.
Number three, are you talking about three? Are you talking about?
I'm
Well, I
so
think your
standing.
pages are
There's two
different than our
pieces. So
pages.
the real estate signs are all the way back up here.
Right, page
And, right.
4.
But there was a
Excuse me.
concern about, the request was, can we tell people if they consistently violate this, then they can't put signs out anymore? Right? So this whole thing has to go to the lawyer, but I put that
It's like a
language
restraining-
in there to
Oh, I
say,
see. Mhm. Good.
after 3 such violations by the same entity, this entity will not be permitted to display exempt signs in the town for a period of 6 months.
or, well, if you think it's a possible, freedom of speech or whatever clause, potentially if someone has X amount of violations, then they have to put a deposit down. The sign perhaps.
Wow, then you get in a whole.
I know,
nother
I'm just,
Enforcement situation.
but sometimes
Yeah.
the rule, how do you enforce a scofflaw? It's just an idea, just something to think about.
The
Could be
counties-
just fining
counties that I-
them.
I
Sorry?
think the fining them. Which would
Counties
be
I've
part of our-
worked in say Monday is the day sign comes down. So you could have an open house on any day of the previous week, but Monday they come down. That way, nobody's counting days, nobody's doing anything. And that is a lot of clutter. And this comes from a 40-year veteran in real estate.
True. And usually, open houses can be on a Thursday, right? Or
Well, they can be on any
Any
day, any day at any
So
hour.
if you have it on, they have to be out on they have to be out of the ground on Monday. If you start an open house on Tuesday, that they'd still mean they would be up all week, right? If you had an open house on Tuesday, like, and you had an open house sign up, then it would,
Just
if you
said-
said had to be down on Monday, that means it would be up on the entire week. So what you're saying is if it's a weekend open house, Monday would be the appropriate day. Should you just say 3 days after the open house, or should you just give an amount of days after the completion of the open house?
Well, who's going to keep track of this?
That's the problem. I mean, that's the
That's
problem.
a burden.
It's exactly right.
Why they say Monday.
Okay.
Now, the number of open houses midweek are rare. in bad markets, you tried absolutely anything you could, evenings, the whole 9 yards. But we have an ordinance person, right?
We do.
And doesn't he work for Jay?
Yes, we have somebody who's code enforcement. Yes.
And
Does he
how-
do that in addition to another job? He
Uh,
must.
Yes,
I think he does probably.
Miss Commissioner Clark said yes. Public Works,
Oh, it's
competing priorities.
yeah. Tough job. It's
So I think Commissioner Ratkay is right. We do it on Monday. They have to be down by Monday, and if they're not down by Monday, maybe if he has time in his job, he collects them on Tuesday.
okay. Yes.
Well-
So, any other ideas?
Well, no, but if someone for some reason had back-to-back open houses, right? They had one over the weekend and had to be pulled up Monday, but then they're having one Tuesday or Wednesday and they put it back in, they're not breaking the law. They're not in violation, but how do they, I'm just saying, I could see that happening, but I guess they could just do paperwork.
But don't they, when they say open houses, don't they have the date underneath of it for saying when the open house is?
No, it'll say like this Sunday.
Yard sales, homemade yard sales do. And they might advertise it online as being a particular date, but most of the time it isn't.
Because those are pre-printed like signs underneath that would say.
With the agent's
it-
name and the company name.
Right.
What are your thoughts?
So, with regard to open houses, the way it's drafted right now, the sign can only be there while the agent is. So
Okay. Well, there's
So that
that.
takes care of that.
That takes
it's
care
I
of
don't
that.
remember reading that.
It
it's
certainly
the
does.
settlement ones. It's the settlement ones that are 5 days.
It's the settlement thing that we have to, I thought that was your original question, is that it wasn't the settlement date that you wanted the signage down. You wanted to have it when it was,
Open. I'm talking open.
you're just talking about open house signs.
And what
Okay,
if,
all
what
right.
if the agent doesn't have well, that doesn't happen that often. What if they have someone else that is holding the open forum?
Or the agent's agent.
Well, then they have to be told that that's.
Or their
the time
assistant.
To remove out.
Or,
remove all
which
the
is happening
signage.
all the time.
Definitive.
Okay, while the estate, okay, so what it says, while the real estate broker is present at the house being sold. One sign may be placed on each street frontage and an additional 3 off-premise signs may be in place during daylight hours on the day of the open house while the real estate broker is present at the house being sold. Do we want another term other than real estate broker? Should we say agent instead of broker? Because broker is the
Right,
term.
right.
We
I
want
mean,
Agent instead of broker, because broker refers to the person who controls the business, and the agent, yeah, there you go. That's better. Yes, Mary Sue.
Well, just for, it says, you're limited to total of 4 premises signs, but in parentheses, it says 3.
It does. You're right.
I don't know if you got that one too.
I didn't, but I got it now.
Well, we'll have a chance to go back through all of these in detail again. Okay, so are you was satisfied with this wording
you mean that's in
that we change it to?
number 1, you mean?
Yes. So now, when the agent closes up the open house, they have to also remove their, okay, so wait a minute. Does that mean that on a Saturday and Sunday, they have open house for Saturday and Sunday, they have to each day take down all their signs?
Yeah.
I think they
This is-
usually do that.
they
though,
do that,
because
yeah.
They don't if
They
it's a
don't-
weekend though, do they?
They don't want a sign that says open house if a house isn't open because somebody's.
The owner will get,
Okay. So even on a weekend, and they know they're gonna be back on Sunday, they have to
It's
take
part
them
of the-
down.
it's part of the job.
Job, okay.
That's all.
All right,
My personal yard gets them in them all the time, and they go up in the morning and are gone
Okay.
before.
okay, that's perfect. Okay, that's great. So then if we go, okay, so if we're happy with that so far, let's move on to page 9. In the red, she's wanting us to review the we're back to EMC, Electronic Messaging Center, EMCs. On commercial districts, EMCs, in commercial districts, EMCs are permitted with a maximum sign area.
That-
Which,
Yeah.
you need the word which.
Yeah, you need the
I
word
do.
which in there. which shall not exceed 1 square foot for each linear foot of street frontage occupied by the use on which or in connection with which the sign is to be erected, but in no case shall the area of the sign exceed 100 square feet. That seems a little wordy to me.
It sure
Unwieldy.
I
does.
was gonna say that did not pass the eighth grade reading
yeah.
ability.
If I read it 10 times, I'm not sure I would understand.
This is the
I think that's the-
existing language in another part
Oh,
of
wait,
the
we have it
code
on
that
here.
I copied here. So if we fix it here, is it agreed that we'll also kind of rewrite it?
Yes.
Okay, I'm just gonna
Yes.
make a note of that.
Thank you. We realized, okay.
I'm confused when it, after, let's see, 1, 2, 3, I guess it's the fourth line. I feel like there's something missing when it talks about, it doesn't exceed 1 square foot for each linear foot of street frontage occupied by the use. Something is not
Right.
following for me there.
The business?
It's the word use. We're not understanding what the word use means. Does that mean the business? So in other words, are we talking one
The use on which?
That's unwieldy. I don't know.
use on, yeah, so what is the intent of this? What are we trying to say here? Do we know? I'm trying to, I'm so confused.
No.
If you have more street frontage, you can have a bigger sign. And if you have less
Okay.
street frontage, your sign is
Okay,
smaller.
okay.
Is this-
Well, it's awkward. The whole thing's
It
awkward.
is
really.
awkward.
I don't think this is a case for Mary Sue.
Well, that might be a case for Larry.
Larry?
Larry Brown.
You're the wordsmith.
We want you to rewrite this red part.
Or Kelly, maybe Kelly should
He's
be
not,
there.
he's not touching it.
It's because it's not just the lot, because sometimes there's multiple
But
lots.
I
with
do
one
have a
use.
Right,
question about
that's
it.
true.
On the next sentence,
Mhm.
talks about the Board of Appeals may approve
Oh,
a 24-foot.
that was meant to be deleted. I
That
apologize.
doesn't.
I just missed that when I did my deletion.
So take that one out, okay.
Mhm.
Okay, that helps a little bit. Now we go back to the red. Um,
This is commercial, right?
Mhm.
So why can't we say for each occupied by the business? On which or in connection with? Good Lord.
It's just,
Dizzy.
Because there's
Yeah.
multiple businesses in some places.
say that again?
Because there's multiple businesses in some locations. So the plaza where you have CVS and Rollins is a good example, right? That's a lot of square footage. They could have one big sign, one big EMC in that parking lot. But each business can't have, the businesses don't have square footage, right? Of
Right.
oh,
property.
Got it.
okay. So the square footage of a sign that could go vertical can't exceed the total linear footage of the plaza? Is that what we're saying? Of the,
So if, just for ease, if you have, if your lot is 10 feet long,
mhm,
right?
mhm.
Then you can have 10 square feet of sign.
You have 10 square feet, it could go up, it could go side, it could go any way you want, but it could be a max of 10 square feet if you have a 10 linear feet of
your-
property.
right. No one has a 10-foot.
No, I'm
Lot,
just saying,
right,
yeah,
but-
yeah, I'm saying,
So
exactly.
as you get bigger,
Mhm,
you
yeah.
can have a bigger sign.
Okay. Kelly, what are your thoughts about that? We need to rewrite it, of course, but I mean, we have the idea now. So shall not exceed 1 square foot for each linear foot of street frontage occupied by the, or street frontage of the commercials, how about of the, instead of occupied by use, by the use of, let's take that out. Shall not exceed 1 square foot for each linear foot of street frontage that the street frontage.
That the business occupies?
Yeah, that's
that
getting there.
the-
No, you can't
That-
say business because of the, it could be more than one.
Okay. the total square footage of the property on which it's, of the property of which it is to be erected on. So in other words, it
Oh, I got
Take
you.
out that whole.
shall not exceed 1 square foot for each linear foot of street frontage. Take out occupied, is that what you want to take out? Or leave occupied?
Occupied by the use or in connection with. It's almost like this needs to be split between plazas or multiple businesses. I
Can we
mean,
make
where
it-
in town do we have oh, I know where we do, the pizza place and
Dry
dry
cleaners?
cleaners.
Can we make it bullet points? Can we break it so it's bullet points?
That
and
would be
I got
very
bullet
helpful.
points.
But take out occupied and just put at.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Take it
Yeah.
occupied too.
Does this help what I've done here? Can you guys see that? I can make it bigger.
Property or properties.
It can still be broken down, but maybe just replace it.
It's better. I don't know if you can, I don't know if you can do bullets, only because if you had to refer to it,
We could do bullets.
you can do
I've
bullets.
done it before,
Okay.
not bullets, but
Like little one, little two, or
yeah, whatever the next stage of this is. I think it's
Okay.
A, B, C.
Okay.
We're not going to be the only one reading this, so it's gotta,
It's gotta be simple and easy.
no, and maybe with tiny bullets. People.
Thank you, Rachel.
Groups.
what she's saying is that, well, okay.
Hold on.
If you were going to do semi-bullets or some kind of a,
Delineation.
whatever, how would you do that then? She's trying to do it right now. Better? A lot better.
It's got to be on a page split, so it's hard to see on the screen.
Need to have on which the sign is to,
Yeah.
you have need which back at the bottom,
Okay.
right before the sign is to be. See what I'm saying? You got-
Yeah, I
did it.
added.
She did.
I just
Got it,
re-added it
got it,
instead
I
of.
see, okay. Which the sign is to be erected. I think it is,
Oh, yeah.
and it seems like it makes sense even on a small property, but it doesn't make sense on a large property. I mean, do we
On a
want to
what?
have a one size fits all? So in other words, okay, it isn't, you're right, it isn't. But if it's, no, well, wait a minute, I'm sorry. If it is in no case of the area of the sign shall exceed 100 square feet. So that means a property like Rod and Reel has to be in the same square footage as,
And it can get its 100 square feet. It just means that like a smaller place, Tyler's can't have 100 square foot sign.
okay.
You
I mean,
have to have
I'm just
100
saying-
feet of linear.
Yeah.
Right.
street
Right, I'm just saying someplace like Rod and Reel would not have the benefit of its,
Yeah.
all of its length. If it wanted to have a much
Okay.
larger sign for the proportion of its size. So in other words, seems like the larger building
10
kind of
signs
loses, but
would be-
that would be the only one.
I mean, I don't think their sign is 100 square feet.
We got a big sign.
You don't think that sign is 100 square feet?
I mean, I haven't measured it.
And by
Maybe it
10?
is.
It seems like the perfect size in my opinion, but anyway, I think that looks good. Does anybody have any issues with what she's done to rewrite it? And does anybody have any questions about it?
Mm-mm. Nope.
I think it looks good. Anybody? Great. Okay, that takes care of that issue. Now we're going to keep on, we want to keep on electronic signs. Don't we want to complete the electronic signs
If you
tonight?
can, yeah.
All right, let's continue down electronic signs because we didn't get to cover all of it last time. So we're going to reread it or try and read it for the first time. So number 2, EMC shall be permitted on a municipal property as approved by the town council. Is that a comma? No, that's a period. Provided that the EMC shall not exceed 24 square feet and shall be permanently installed on an appropriate foundation.
It's supposed to be a comma or something.
Shouldn't you have a comma between council and provided? Because it's all one sentence, correct?
Yeah, it can go either way.
Must have been a school teacher.
MC shall be printed on a miss. I think that sound, does anybody have any issues with number 2?
I'm not sure why we need an appropriate foundation.
It's interesting that it seems to me if you need an appropriate foundation, you would need that, whether it's municipal or not. So the question is, do you need it at all?
Right.
It should be consistent.
Well, is it appropriate foundation to hold the sign down because of how windy it is? And if we have a hurricane,
Ooh.
and if
Right,
it's
right,
not
right.
in an appropriate foundation, it becomes a flying object.
You can think about the ones like that are on wheels sometimes, like is that what you're thinking?
5 appropriate. How do you identify what appropriate foundation is?
A lot of this is combined language from other
Yes.
places. So
Yes.
if you want to remove that, I mean, we could just remove this second part.
It's
I
very
would hope
confusing.
that the town would not choose to install an EMC that could become a projectile. I doubt that would happen.
I mean, who was around in 2000? Was it 2004? I was here in 2004.
When traders lost the roof.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't
Traders-
remember that.
Yeah, the hurricane came right on down and
The derecho, is that the one? Enchilada?
No, it was a
Oh.
real,
Oh.
it was a real tornado.
Oh, that's, it hit my.
Oh,
face.
yes,
Yeah,
absolutely,
okay.
absolutely. Great.
I-
Number 3, let's move on to number 3.
Did
Additional,
we eliminate 2?
additional needs to have an I in it.
What- Are we keeping that appropriate?
No, I'm sorry, we're taking out
I took
and
that
shall
out.
be permanently installed
Okay.
on an appropriate, and shall be
Okay.
permanently installed on an appropriate foundation will
Okay.
be taken out. Number 3, additional needs to be respelled, additional general EMC regulations. One EMC is permitted per property where a shopping center or industrial park has been subdivided. Only one is permitted. Wait a minute.
Awkward. Property.
So do we need only one is permitted? We can take that out, right? Only-
yes.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So
I'm not keeping up with the room. That's on the-
no, I didn't take out only one is permitted.
Oh,
If you have, I don't know, I haven't done a property map analysis, but if a property where there's multiple businesses in the shopping center is on 2 lots
Mhm.
instead of 1, they still can only have 1 sign. That's what this is saying.
Right. Because all over
Right.
town, most people's houses in town.
And I
in the
think
old
it's just
businesses have
saying where a
multiple lots
property-
that you can't build on them.
Where a property has been subdivided.
one EMC
Only-
is permitted per property. Period. Okay, that's a period. Where a shopping center or industrial park has been subdivided, only one is, so we want to leave only one is permitted.
Yeah.
I see what you're saying. Okay. Okay, one EMC is permitted per property. Where a shopping center or industrial park has been subdivided, only one is permitted. Okay, so we're going to keep that in after all. Okay, sorry. So then we have little 1. The EMC may provide advertisements for all business within a shopping center or business park.
Do we even need that?
Well, that would potentially be like Ride and Reel advertising on their one sign for all the businesses that are in
Mhm.
Ride and Reel from
Or Roland's, yeah.
or Roland.
Uh-huh.
It's
Okay,
just stating something really more so that it
Mhm.
doesn't have to be asked.
okay.
Mhm.
B, an EMC may be a portion of a building sign or freestanding sign, or may compromise the entire sign area.
That mean,
Comprise. But it means that it can just be an EMC, or it can be part EMC and part traditional sign.
Yeah.
got it.
C,
Okay.
all permitted EMCs shall be equipped with a sensor or other device that automatically determines the ambient illumination and programmed to automatically dim according to ambient light conditions, or that can be adjusted to comply with section J.
It seemed okay to me.
That seems reasonable. Does anybody have any questions with C? D, EMC sign shall have a minimum display time of 10 seconds.
That what we agreed to the last time? Was it 10 or 20?
I think you hadn't gotten there.
We hadn't really determined what we thought the time should be, I don't think.
Oh, we did have that conversation.
Well, we
and
did have the
talked about it.
conversation. We talked about the fact that the school has a much faster turnaround, but that the rod and reel we think is,
Rod and reel, I think, is almost 30 seconds.
yeah,
it's
longer. It's longer.
Definitely.
And I think you said 10 was too short.
10 is the absolute minimum. That's why that's in there.
Yeah.
But I think that the rod and reel is a good example of how it can be done well.
I think it's done very nicely.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
feel the same.
Mhm. Okay, so we can change that to 20 or 15 or whatever we
I
want to
think-
do.
You thought that 30 was,
It's around 30. So
that's
I
rod and
mean,
reels around 30.
you could do 20 or 25.
And what do you
Mhm.
do with the scrolling words, like the school district? Are those not allowed? Did we decide we didn't want to allow those?
No, how did those are? I don't see that they're not
Goodness,
allowed
Lord.
to scroll in how we have it. Yeah. I see the problem with the 30-second hold time when you have the smaller area.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe,
Oh, transition? No, that wouldn't be considered transition. Oh.
well, because scrolling is not allowed in the transitions, which is recommended not to allow scrolling because of the level. All these display features that are listed as prohibited are recommended actually by not just like planning folks and other municipal governments, but by actually sign people, like the International Sign Association. So
Oh, well, if that's standard, then standard.
But then, do we
Verbiage.
have this problem that we have a school?
we do. So
And like, there's no, like, the enforcement,
Problem.
excuse me, has the enforcement officer addressed this?
So because we've been dealing with signs, enforcement has been to some extent on these electronic signs suspended until a decision is made.
Didn't you say that I think that they can, the signs, you have the ability
Mhm.
to change how it looks. So it's not like they're going to be out of money.
No,
Okay.
it's just if they want to have a message that's a sentence, they're going to need to transition faster than 30 seconds. But I wouldn't let them transition any faster than 10 seconds. And so maybe it's a matter of writing something in here that is, if your sign is X size or smaller, then your transition can be 10 seconds. Otherwise, it has to be 30. At the same time, the school sign, it has the scrolling on the bottom, but it also has the little panel that is
Right.
changing rapidly. So I don't know that it necessarily, then they're going to have to do their announcements in that panel and they can put less text in the scrolling section.
Or do
So
we want to
that's-
ask that they not use the scrolling at all?
Well, they won't be able to scroll it. They'll only be able to display for 20 or 30 seconds, whatever gets
All right, so
decided.
eliminate the scrolling entirely is what you're saying.
That's a fade, right?
So continuous in E, if you go down, continuous scrolling and or traveling is prohibited.
Yes, okay, good. So going back to D, did we want to, let's go back to D. EMC signs shall have a minimum display time of 10 seconds. How does everybody feel about 10 seconds? We saw
Alright.
last week,
Fast.
too fast?
Minimum, can
It's,
be more.
I mean,
Right.
in order to read it, I have to go slower than the speed limit. I mean, speed limit's pretty slow there, so.
so you're saying it's going to slow us down?
Well, it's not bad to, you need to slow down in that area anyway.
There's a lot that are transitioning faster than this in very distracting ways. So I think the minimum does matter.
So if you count 10 seconds, let's start 10 seconds. Let's go start now. Okay, that's 10. That's quite a long time, actually.
Well,
I
it
think.
depends. Is Johnny running out in front of you? Is there a school bus in front of
Mm.
you?
Well,
What's
at
going
the
on
s-
in that 10 seconds? Sitting here looking at it? That's nothing. Driving is a whole different
If
ballgame.
it's raining,
Yeah, but you're driving, you're moving. You're going to pass it up. And you might pass it up at the end of its cycle, or at the beginning of its cycle. That depends
Mhm.
on your speed. And so I'm not sure you can manage that.
Good point.
You want to look at these again?
I mean, the scrolling is definitely a problem, but 10 seconds seems like it's,
If you're stationary, I agree with Larry, 10 seconds is a long time.
yeah.
If you're
You just-
moving at 35 miles an hour, well, on Bayside Road, for pity's sake, the average is 43.
This one's not moving.
See, here's 10 seconds. She's got it up
distracting,
right now.
sometimes you need to turn your head to look at it. You can be like, oh, I missed it. No, I'm
Well, I
sure
know
people
it's-
do that.
I'm sure that's true.
I mean, I feel that way when I'm like,
You're-
what DJs?
You may not notice the sign until it's about to change. I mean, it's just,
But
you
the
know,
point
it's
is
just
she going to be
part of
distracted and
driving.
will she? I don't know.
When you say she, you don't mean specifically me.
No, somebody in this, somebody over here who's concerned.
Me, I won't even be reading them.
Okay, there you go.
I won't.
But it seems like 10 seconds is fairly long.
This is 30 now. I
And
can
if you're going to go
back
up to
the 10.
30, you might as well not have a digital sign because you've already passed it and it's not even,
But if you have 10, that makes the point.
Mhm.
You said 30 and you're past it, 10, you haven't even seen it.
What's the purpose? We don't really,
well.
it sounds like a pig in a poke.
sounds like a business decision to me. Whether you want your people to see it or not, and what they think.
Right, right.
Fair point.
So does anybody have any issues with keeping it at 10 seconds? It's a minimum display time. You don't want to go any shorter than 10, obviously. 10 is pretty long though. I'm okay with it. Is everybody else okay with it?
Yeah.
I don't hear anybody. Okay, let's go to the next page. And we've got the transition time between messages and or message frames may employ either instantaneous or fade, dissolve, or other transition effects not prohibited in E below. Okay. A fade, dissolve, or other non-instantaneous transition must have a minimum transition time of at least 3 seconds. Okay. I don't hear anybody. I'll keep moving on. The following EMC display features and functions are prohibited, and you can read those all, and they look fairly standard.
Okay, so that is what, just the school won't be able to
Get the scrolling
scroll.
in.
They'll just have to have some text that stays for a
Stays
minimum of 10
permanent.
seconds.
And
Yeah, maybe
American
the-
Legion won't be able to have the flashing.
Maybe their office hours or something, yeah. F, temporary or portable EMCs are not permitted except as required by the Maryland State Highway Administration in relation to road closures.
You know, how sometimes you got to get those rolling signs when you're going to close the road.
Mhm.
That's, I didn't want to make those illegal. So that's what this is added for.
Be
A
arrested.
question, Mary Sue?
Well, I mean, suppose there's flooding and the town needs to put up caution flood area
Mhm.
or something like that. I mean, I think you want to include,
Road closures or emergencies.
yeah, I mean, I think so.
Okay, so you want to add that terminology down there?
Well, and should it just, but also because we're saying it's required by the state highway administration,
Mhm.
can the town also?
Or any other government.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, good. Okay, then with J, we have sign illumination standards. Signs may be illuminated consistent with the following standards. One, signs that have external illumination, whether the lighting is mounted above or below the sign face, or panel, shall have lighting fixtures or luminaires that are shaded, shielded, or directed so that the light intensity does not adversely affect surrounding areas. The light from any illuminated sign or from any light source, including interior of a building, shall be so shaded, shielded, or directed that the light intensity or brightness shall not adversely affect surrounding or facing premises, nor adversely affect safe vision or of operators of vehicles moving on public or private roads, highways, or parking areas. Light shall not shine or reflect on or into residential structures. Illumination projected onto a sign must be confined as completely as possible to the face of the sign. Okay, I think that's fairly clear. Signs which flash or blink or which have varying intensity of illumination on less than a 3-second cycle are prohibited. The nighttime illumination of an EMC must conform to the criteria set forth in this section. A, the difference between the off and solid message measurements of the EMC shall not exceed 0.3 foot candles at night. B, the measurement criteria shall be as follows. 1, an illuminance meter set to measure foot candles accurate to at least 2 decimals shall be used. 2, illuminance shall be measured with the EMC off and again with the EMC displaying a white image for a full color capable EMC or a solid message for a single color EMC. 3, all measurements shall be taken as close as practical to a perpendicular plane of the sign at the distance determined by the following formula. Measurement distance equals area of sign square foot times 100 EMCs equals, no. Okay, so that sounds, I mean, it's so technical. I can't say one way or the other if that
No.
makes any
Do you want to
sense.
paraphrase?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
That'd be good.
I think it
So-
sounds okay. What do you guys think? I don't know.
Only question I had was, I guess this is all technical, but the 0.03 foot candles at night, I not really heard of that before.
No, that's what I'm
But I
saying.
imagine that that's
can't
just a
say-
standard within the lighting industry.
And that was also recommended by sign dealers themselves, as well as anything brighter than that. So people might want to do things brighter than that, but it's distracting and you can't get your message
Who's
across.
measuring this?
So in the
No,
town,
I'm serious. I mean,
so sorry,
Yeah,
my voice
good
is
question.
So I spoke with code enforcement and public works. Foot candles is the best approach to use because the meter reader is very simple to work and inexpensive to purchase. And so how this would work is if there was a sign that seems too bright, the code enforcement officer is going to get this device. Then they're going to say, okay, how big is this sign? It's 50 square feet. Well, I'm going to stand back 500 square feet. And then take this measurement, and you have to have the
Oh,
cooperation of the
5,000 square feet, 5,000 feet.
Yes, 5,000
Feet,
feet.
not square
Yes,
feet.
not square feet. Math on the
So
fly
for-
is not my strong
So
point.
for a 24 square foot,
Mhm.
what we, you'll go back 2,400 feet.
Mhm.
Good Lord.
And then the meter is reading.
So,
How do you?
and I'm not sure you can get 2,400
Correct.
square feet from any of these signs.
Mhm.
And other than maybe the American Legion.
Okay.
So how do you measure?
Use a drone and go up.
No, you're measuring, you're measuring.
That much.
Planes.
Yeah,
In plane, well,
I agree, Larry.
So
I don't know.
we can adjust that specific measurement, and I can talk with code enforcement about the best distance for them. But what they'll do when they go out is they're going to take the meter. They're going to have the person turn off the EMC. They're going to measure it. They're going to have them turn it on all white, and then they're going to measure it again. So I can work with code enforcement to find a measurement that works better. This is just the standard recommended formula.
Well, in a small town, that's almost impossible.
Right.
So,
Did you want to make any changes?
No, I'm fine.
Okay, or you can that. All right. Is there anything else on electronic messaging centers that we want to talk about? I think we're done with it, aren't we, Ms. Franklin?
I think that covers it. Yeah.
That covers the EMCs. Okay, the next thing I want to quickly go over, and we've got a few minutes here. I want to go over prohibited signs next, which would be on page 5. Let's go to F, prohibited signs. Following prohibitions, the following prohibitions apply to all signs regardless of the district in which they are located. 1, no sign, whether,
that's the wrong
It
weather.
is strong weather. Yes.
I know, I was like, how's weather? Something.
It keeps trying to change it.
whether attached or freestanding shall project above the peak of the roof surface to which the sign is attached. 2, any questions about that one?
So that's right, the
The
flags,
flag was going to be below
The
the
eave line.
Eve.
is that what you were thinking, this you were?
Well, and Larry was talking about when we were talking about before the 30 feet, and if it's a rancher, that could potentially already be above the top of a roof. So we have a little conflict.
Yep, this is why we have to go over it.
I mean,
Oh,
and
this
it-
is an attached sign. This is not a flag, right? It
Well, it
says
says-
to which the sign is attached.
Whether attached or
freestanding.
freestanding, it's,
Oh, yeah.
yeah, because
true.
when we
that's not
discussed this, we didn't really have flags as part
Um,
of it.
Well, if you took away freestanding, would that change this whole thing around? So if you had, no sign shall project above the peak of the roof surface to which the sign is attached. Isn't that what originally we were talking about anyway? Is that,
Yeah, I don't know.
I think it was just supposed to be the attached one, not the freestanding one.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a bit.
I
Sign,
do think that when we talked about it, there was this discussion of not wanting freestanding signs to be taller than the building
That'd be
either.
a massive.
So,
notice how we did add this in. Okay, so now we are
But-
confused. Okay.
and it's okay to change your mind.
No, that's
Just-
right. As
yeah.
we look at it again, maybe if we want to go back to just the attached signage should not go above.
So the interesting Okay, from my interpretation of this, if you have a single story, it's going to be up to the single story. But if you have a 2-story, then the flag can be even higher because then it's not above it. So then now you're going to have them all at different levels.
And the question is, are we referring to freestanding and attached or just attached or, what are we referring to here? Number one, prohibited. Why don't we separate it out? Can
Well,
we
and
just,
the other thing is I think it's under general sign regulations as well that height is discussed. So you could just leave it for the height limit happening
Oh,
under general
ex-
sign regulations.
except for the freestanding, didn't we say that it'd go 30 feet, even if you had a 1-story?
I think the flag is 30 feet,
Yeah.
but also in conflict to that, right?
Yeah.
The under general regulations, the maximum height is 20 feet.
Yeah, it is.
So, but that's under general. So I think with prohibited signs,
So what do you recommend on number one? Is it too confusing to leave it in?
I think we can leave that or we can move it under general sign regulations, right? To say it doesn't have to be here under prohibited signs. And then that puts it closer to where the other height regulations are. Or we can add another bullet or number here that addresses the height of freestanding signs and pull it out of general regulations.
Would somebody describe I mean, I know what the word means. Give me an example. Freestanding sign,
American Legion.
no matter what kind.
Anything that
Yeah,
is not
that would
attached
be
to the
a-
wall is freestanding.
I mean, American Legion's like this. So if they have a freestanding sign, you're saying it could be,
So they do have a freestanding sign.
I know they do.
Yeah,
but it's not up to the eaves. Isn't that what we're talking about?
right.
That'd be
There's a height
massive.
limit of 20 feet regardless.
Oh.
In the general sign regulations. So this doesn't have to be here. This didn't used to be here. I moved this here. We can move it back to general sign regulations.
I think we should move it. For some reason, it doesn't seem like it works right here.
I agree.
And when we go to general sign, we're gonna have to review that again and see if we want to rewrite it again. But I'm not sure it fits here very well into prohibited signs. What does everybody think? Just move it out of here?
I agree
Anybody-
to move it back.
Yeah. move it.
Larry doesn't care? He doesn't care. Let's move it out of here if you don't mind. We'll deal with that in general. Move to general.
And say, we're at 7:35.
Let me see how many prohibited signs. Maybe we can get through this.
I thought
think-
we amended it for chickens.
Let's try and get through. I think we can get through prohibited signs pretty quickly, don't you think? Let's go through them really quickly. No sign shall project more than 14 inches out from the wall to which it's attached. For the purposes of this regulation, any roof with the surface constructed at any angle or within 15 degrees of vertical is regarded as a wall. This may not be as easy as I thought. Right.
Yeah, I didn't know.
Okay, I think we better hold off.
Yes.
I think we better hold off on prohibited because this is getting too, and when I thought we were talking prohibited signs, I thought we said like no flashing signs, no, I thought it'd be such a more simple,
So I can
straightforward.
I can adjust it to be more like that.
I think
For
we need
next
to do
time.
that because
Yeah.
I think when somebody wants to know what I really can't do, I really want to go and just have a bullet point of what I really can't have. This gets a little more complicated, like it should be in general. It should be in the general sign
Mhm.
ordinance part. And I'm looking at some of these others and I'm thinking maybe we should look at the rest of those as,
I'll just adjust it for next time
yeah, there you go.
and we can
I
start.
like
off
the
with it.
sound of that.
Okay, so now we have to, oh, okay, very good.
Of a kind.
Okay, so we're not done with prohibited signs yet either.
And if it's okay with you, I'll move that before I send it to the town to put the newest draft online.
Yes, good idea. Good idea. Excellent. Okay. All right, we still have a lot more we have to.
So
look
we're
at.
starting, the purposes of next week, we're just gonna.
Next month?
Next month.
Please.
Sorry. Sorry.
Do that.
Sorry.
Well, next month, we're gonna have to go back over temporary signage
Okay.
and make sure that what we've redone here looks right.
We're gonna go back to temporary.
So temporary signage for next time, and we should get into what else do you want to try and accomplish next month?
I would say as much of it as we can.
Yeah, so we're gonna try and have to then get into,
There, I think if we can get to general sign regulation.
I think we're gonna have to get into general.
and if we can get to districts.
That's true.
So in April, we're gonna get to temporary signage, and then we'll go to the general. We'll go to the general. How's that? That'll probably be all that we're gonna get done, especially when we deal with chickens. So let's,
That's exciting. Come on, guys.
okay.
More interesting than signs.
Let's go ahead and put our signage away for now, and I'm gonna go ahead and, let's talk quickly on, new business. Let's go to backyard chickens. Let's let our
Our chicken offerer.
funny thing at all. I think we should ask Rachel to give us a little general idea of what we're talking about as far as backyard chickens.
So I had mentioned this when Kathleen was still chair, that at some point I was like, can we bring this up? And then in the past month, I saw that there was a Facebook post on the Chesapeake Beach Town Residents Facebook, and somebody was saying, I wish we need to get chickens. And there was lots of activity around that
that, yeah.
post. And so I said on the post, I have wanted to bring this up in front of planning and zoning. So, I want then whoever to know that it did happen. Not lots of towns, but let's see. Annapolis, Howard County, including Columbia and Ellicott City, Baltimore City, Frederick, Rockville, all of them allow chickens in town limits with specific regulations. Sometimes it has to do with what lot size, but they're much smaller than the 3 acres that Calvert County is the current requirement. Most of the time, they're saying between 4 and 6 chickens are allowed in these lots. Roosters are not permitted. And we can talk about the environmental reasons why this is good. You could talk about the philosophical reasons of what are people allowed to do on their own property. You would also can make the argument that most people's dogs are much louder than 4 to 6 hens would be. And these other towns have seem to have made these programs, and it has been successful without, detriment to the town or property values.
So there would be an ordinance that we could probably copy, or at least bring ideas forward.
Frederick.
Annapolis, Frederick, Rockville, Baltimore City has the most.
Hey, Solomon's also.
I thought that I had heard that before, but when I
Gotta
was
find it.
just doing brief research, I can't.
Because Calvert County, of course, has had, this ordinance for a long time, but we could still, as our own incorporated town, have our own situation here. So we could absolutely put something together and
Just out of curiosity,
Mhm.
how many HOAs do we have in Chesapeake
well,
Beach?
the HOAs would not permit them, I'm sure.
And lots of these places do not allow still in townhouses, but also there tend to be lot sizes requirements. And so in Annapolis, I mean, different things that people do, it has to do with where the setbacks are.
Did
And
you say that Calvert County,
yes,
they're regular?
3 acres.
How
Um,
many
so-
hens per 3 acres?
I don't know what Calvert County is, how many you're allowed to have once you have 3 acres.
Okay.
But places like Baltimore City, residents may keep up to 4 chickens on lots smaller than 2,000 square feet, which is kind of the most generous.
Boy.
Whereas Howard County, including Columbia and Ellicott City, residents in single family detached homes. So you do have all of those, but the lots have to be 10,000 square feet or more to keep up to 8 hens. Again, roosters are prohibited. You know what I mean? So you can like adjust as you think seems reasonable, and HOA, lots of HOAs are still going to exclude them.
We might be looking at just our RV1 and RV2 districts, if that. I mean, that's, we would have to figure that out. But I would think that your HOAs would have some restriction, right? I'm sure they
I'm
would.
pretty sure that
I'm
Richfield Station
sure
does not
Bayview
allow.
would.
I'm sure, I'm pretty, I can't imagine that.
Any HOA would allow it.
I haven't looked at the documents lately, but
I'm sure that-
I mean, if I recall correctly, Richfield Station has, I want to say, a 3-animal limit per house.
And could you make one of those a chicken? The 3 of them a chicken?
I got to go back and look at the
I mean,
regulations and the bylaws to see what it
A
says.
chicken and a parakeet, I guess. I don't know. It'd be an interesting thought, actually. Oh, no.
It's a modern problem. It's a modern issue,
Yes.
yes.
Well, with the price of
anything-
eggs, I think everybody's wanting more chickens because there is a lot of posts on Facebook saying, I'm getting the little chicks. How many of you want them?
Which is very silly because backyard chickens are significantly more expensive than even the most expensive eggs. But I mean, it's an coop and feed and all of those things. I think that those people don't quite know what they're talking about with chickens at this, you know what I mean? It seems like it's going to be cheaper than it is. But I mean, one of the reasons when we originally bought the house living on one side of town to the other, and we knew that there were going to be more ticks. Like one of the things from an environmental point of view, chickens eat a lot of ticks. And
Oh,
as people who are concerned, so Tom, my husband, had come to town council 10 years ago to see if they would make an exception. But then true to our kind of laid back ways, we never followed up with it. But here I am now trying again.
So what are you proposing?
That we consider, I guess the way that it would work is that as planning and zoning, we consider an amendment to our planning and zoning laws that would allow chickens that then I guess we would bring before town council and they would vote to decide whether or not they wanted to accept that.
Under certain circumstances.
Under certain
So
circumstances.
we'd be recommend.
Yes.
Are there any health issues? I really don't know. Yeah, with chickens.
Yes, well, there is,
There are.
I mean,
bird flu.
yes, there are.
There are.
And it can be cross species.
That's why the eggs are so expensive right now because we currently have a,
Right. And I think the biggest virus that's out right now is not cross-contaminating to humans. There is a viral component that, yes, I think can impact humans, but it's rare
you
from
talking
what
about
I
bird flu?
understand.
Talking about bird flu?
The avian flu, yes. So I think what I'd like to ask, if it's okay with everybody on the dais, I would like to ask staff to possibly set up, maybe examine this more closely with the ordinances out there and maybe come back with some recommendations that we could mull over next month.
Yes, if I can just kind of comment on so backyard chickens is not just a planning and zoning ordinance because it's possible that there might be a noise, part of the noise ordinance and anything around, if they want to put something around health and safety. So I think it would make sense to communicate to the town council that you're considering it because there's ordinances that they may need to update separate from 290, right, from the zoning ordinance that have to collaborate. So I think it's worth.
Well, would they need to do that after we came up with our recommendation, though? I mean, they wouldn't make those changes prior
Right.
to making, so if we came up with a recommendation, send it over to them,
Mhm.
they wanted to pursue it, then they have to start changing.
And then just they'd have to adopt everything at one time.
That's true, yes, but
Yes.
I mean, we could write a letter, but then, I think they have to see a set of conditions and a set
Mhm.
of what, rules of what we're looking at right here. That's why I'm thinking, since we're all in somewhat agreement, I'm not sure I'm hearing from everybody, but
Larry? How do you
I-
feel about a
I'm-
chicken?
Baltimore, some of these places must have townhouses and, which you say are prohibited, but what size lot are they talking about allowing chickens on?
Well, they changed. So in Montgomery County, it's 10,000 square foot lots, whereas in Baltimore, they're allowing them on 2,000 square lots. So 2,000 square feet lot. So we can determine what we think, should you all be interested, what we think is both reasonable and encompasses enough of the lots to even be considered, but also a way that makes it somewhat permissible for some people in town.
I mean, and I might be wrong, but I believe there's already somebody in town that has chickens.
Nobody, I don't think that there are.
Oh, yes,
any
there
legal-
is.
I don't think there's any legal chickens.
Oh, well, she didn't say that.
not legal. She didn't say
Because
that.
we don't have very many properties of 3 square feet or more.
Three
in-
square, yeah, acres, yeah.
or
Well, I
square-
mean, we
yeah,
might
I'm
have some
sorry.
out in the Highlands over here.
Bayview Farms.
Hills?
I'm in Bayview Hills now.
Talking about over by
Or
Sneak,
by the American Legion.
Marion Legion.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I call them the
Well,
Highlands.
in
but
the
yeah.
old section of town, 2,500 is not unusual at all, square feet per lot. That puts you right next to your neighbor. So that to me would not be acceptable.
I mean,
So,
3,600 square foot.
And I would say there would probably be very few places that would be amenable to chickens.
I
But
mean-
then there are properties that would be, so what, should we restrict them because you have a, or I have
No,
a,
I mean, we set standards.
yeah, we set standards.
Before we do all this, can we poll? Do we have a way to poll in town to see if there's really interest that it would be worth our time to really change all the
And-
regulations and everything else?
By the time this passes, the price of eggs will be back down.
It's gone up really high.
just, like from my own just purely selfish point of view, I have wanted to have these for far beyond this. I mean, and
Yeah.
and these things tend to go in waves. Chickens became very popular during COVID and lots of places started to permit them. Like they kind of will gain in popularity at different points.
Right.
And
So-
you know what's going to happen. I mean, we already have, I believe, coyotes and foxes in Richfield Station. I mean,
I think
and
we
the
do too.
bunny population has decreased. So
I'll bet.
I believe they will be very happy if we get some chickens.
I mean,
Work for the Fox lobby.
No, I don't, but I see them, they come to visit and
Uh,
I used to have
You'd
bunnies.
be happy?
I used to have
Fox
stuffed bunnies in the backyard
We have
and
bunnies,
deer.
yeah.
See one.
And now I see the foxes and the coyotes.
Interesting. I haven't seen rabbits in a while.
And hawks also like to take chickens, but
but I would also, I mean, people live in small lots and they have dogs and they have cats and those are permitted and those do impact neighbors.
Absolutely.
And so, you
You're
know,
right.
there's
You're
this distinction made that these are not permitted because they're going to, but like we live in community and, people are impacted. So it's just a matter of whether or not we think that there is value enough or that we think people should have the choice on their property to do that enough for what could be but trust me, living next to my kids is more of an impact than 4 or 5 chickens ever would be. And Larry knows because they're on his street all the time. Yeah.
so I can prepare a staff report with data and comparisons for next time.
I think I'm hearing a majority of people would appreciate something like that.
I think so.
Town council can do what they want with it, but I know I'm interested and yeah, as you're saying, not many lots. This particular.
Well, but Rachel's point is very well taken. I love dogs. I've had dogs my whole life. There are a few dogs in my neighborhood I wish weren't there. And they are way louder than any chickens. So what other considerations should we be looking at? I don't know. That's why I brought up the health thing. Maybe
Yeah.
it's not appropriate, but
I mean, and you can bring a dog inside, right? But the chickens, unless you, I would assume you would put them in their little houses at night so the,
Almost everybody has a coop because otherwise you're not
have
going to
to
have
have
a
a
chicken
coop.
very long at all. Yeah.
You have to have a coop or,
Yeah.
and it has to be heated and it has to, yeah, there's a lot of, that goes into it.
aye, that's quite an
Um,
investment.
That's what I'm saying.
That
When
is,
people
it's-
act like it's for cheap eggs.
not
It's for
Yeah.
It's for
having
having
pets.
the type of egg, it's a high quality, you know what's going into the food, but, I think it's worthy of trying and we'll see where it goes and it may not go anywhere, but I think it's something that the community, I think, would appreciate in general. And,
I agree with that. I
It's
don't
one
have
more
a problem
thing
with that,
that-
but it's,
Appreciate that it was taken seriously.
yes.
They spoke, they were heard. I think that's important
Exactly. If
too.
there's any reason to have social media and we see the posts coming and, yeah, let's take advantage of social media as what it is, and that is a communication from the public. I think that's great. They're not coming to our meetings. Maybe they're saying hi on streaming. Okay,
I'm
so
going to ask you, chicken people. You're going to have to come to the meeting if we want it.
In outfits,
Yes.
or don't come at all.
okay, so I think we've completed old and new business, and now we're going to go to comments by commissioners. Ellie, would you like to begin the comment section?
I have no comment tonight.
I do not have any comments.
In our minutes from the last meeting, it talks about several things from the mission, natural resources, that we were going to consider. Are those still outstanding?
The Critical Area Commission.
Yeah.
So the Critical Area Commission will be looking at our ordinance. Their subcommittee will look at it on the 11th, and then the full commission will look at it on the 23rd of this month. And then they'll submit comments back to the town council on the changes that are going to be needed, because between when we started and when we adopted, new critical
Mhm.
area law took into effect.
You mean next month?
So this month, the Critical Area Commission is looking at it. I don't know how long it takes them to get their comments back to town council, but that's who they'll send them to.
And we received a letter from them this month,
It was just confirming that timeline.
and there were several things in that letter that
Mhm.
we needed to respond to.
We don't need to respond to anything yet. I've been in communication with staff at Critical Area Commission.
I didn't get the letter with my packet, but
I thought there were things that they wanted us to consider changing.
Yes, there are things they want us to consider changing.
Okay.
There's just not the official comments
Oh.
yet.
Okay,
so
so
we
it
can-
might not be there.
we can ignore that letter until the final comments come in.
We don't want to make changes before the final comments come in.
Okay. And I have some other things on the sign ordinance, but one thing occurred to me during the meeting is, now I don't expect anybody to do this. I don't know anybody would, but what about obscene signs or flags or whatever?
They are prohibited.
Hmm?
They are prohibited per the
Where?
ordinance.
Well, that,
I think it's in general. It might be in prohibited signs and it might be in general sign regulations.
I didn't see it, so.
It is there.
it is there.
It is in
Because
there.
I had checked it with the town attorney to make sure it could stay.
So who decides obscene?
That's what I.
Oh, boy, isn't that the
Larry, that's
truth.
what I wondered. And I was thinking about Justice Stevens.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah. And And I,
Seems to me a rather lengthy discussion of that needs to be there.
and
I would think it'd be the Board of Appeals.
Mhm.
mhm.
And, but that's just my thing.
So no
It says
sign,
no, oh,
yeah.
yeah.
no sign shall be permitted, it's number 10, which contains statements, words, or pictures of an obscene character. And in consultation with the lawyer, she said that that is, you are still allowed to regulate content in this way. And she kind of said what you said, which is the definition of obscene changes. And so, there may be things that are deemed obscene that then this gets challenged and it, has to be allowed, but there's no reason to get ahead of that and let people, swear on signs before you know, are forced to.
Would hope people would have restraint
Right.
and,
Oh,
you
no.
don't know. I said you would hope.
Oh, hope,
you know,
yes.
No.
Depends when somebody has a pickup truck and puts a flag on it with some
Yep.
obscene statement and drives around.
Or parks it.
Ooh.
Not on land, it's on their own personal
Mhm.
property.
Then,
It's
Oh.
not, I mean, it's not regulated by the zoning ordinance because it's moving around.
Right.
But it's, well, when it parks.
and maybe it
It's not
stays
land.
parked.
It's not
park.
zoned.
It's,
We may have to discuss that one as well.
That's all I had.
But bring those, we
stirred up a
don't,
hornet's nest.
yeah, I know. Bring that, we're gonna, that should be under prohibited.
It's under
that should be a
prohibited and it's
prohibited-
number 10.
Yeah, number 10. We may have to discuss more fully what that.
It's the one that has the wonky tab that I can't seem to fix.
Rachel, what would you like to, besides chickens, of course, we'll go beyond that now.
That I'm famous for one day.
Yeah, one day.
Yes, it will.
It's the Rachel,
Maybe she has to come in a chicken outfit. Just kidding.
oh, no.
Threaten me with a good time. No cop,
Darn
no
good
comment.
in an Easter Bunny
Yeah.
outfit. I've done that hundreds of times for family, of course.
Any,
No comment.
okay, and Jan?
No, I don't think so.
And I guess the only thing that I would comment on is, we were going back to your agenda item. Still going to do that. It's going to be at the tail end of when we get done with signage. At this point, I don't know when that's going to be, but we're still going to put that up for your agenda item. So that will come. I don't know how much longer signage will take. Do you project how much longer it's going to take us for signage?
I'm hoping that after the April, no, it's, yes, it's
April. Would
April.
be
After the
April.
April meeting, that I would begin drafting some things for the coastal resiliency piece, even if it's just memos. Because we can probably do chickens and coastal resiliency once signs starts to,
We do want to have
Grind up.
a public hearing.
for signs, yes.
Probably do that May. Well,
Let's
Then
see how we are
we'll see how
after,
how much we get done. I won't even, but anyway.
but I think we'll be close enough to start thinking about coastal resiliency by
Perfect. All right, so it's a few minutes to 8. Do I have any motion to adjourn?
Make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
And do I have a second?
I second.
And do I have a vote? All in favor? Aye, and I officially close this meeting for.
Bye, Jan.
Wow.
My mother would say, here's your hat. What's your hurry? And during it, perhaps.